What's up everybody, Stankie here, and today we're taking a look at enhancement hero talents in Midnight. Starting off with Stormbringer, which has seen somewhat major changes while still retaining its previous playstyle. So Tempest has been changed, or rather how we proc Tempest has changed. You no longer build up towards Tempest via Awakening Storm's procs or Maelstrom spent. You instead have a 2% chance per Maelstrom spent to proc Tempest, and every Storm Strike has a small chance to proc Tempest, whatever a small chance is. So pulling Tempest looks to have somewhat gone away, since we can't reliably track when Tempest procs, and we no longer spawn a Nature Wolf on every Tempest, which means there's less of an incentive to pull Tempest. Previously, you'd save or pull 1 or 2 Tempest procs for new packs, or to combine with Primordial Wave or Ascendance, but you'd also pull Awakening Storm procs and or Maelstrom spent. The ideal situation being having 1 or 2 Tempest pulled, being at 30 out of 40 Maelstrom spent for a new Tempest proc, and 2 out of 3 Awakening Storms for a new Tempest. Now that did not always happen, and it got even worse with our current set bonus add-in being at 6 to 7 out of 8 Awakening Storm procs, so you'd be close to an Ascendance proc as well. So you could go into your Ascendance window with 1 Tempest ready, giving you 2 Tempests, and your next Tempest will proc a Tempest from Maelstrom spent, and that Tempest might proc Awakening Storm, which in turn procs 8 more seconds of Ascendance and another Tempest, which translates to an unethical amount of damage. However, you could just play current BM Hunter and press Call of the Wild and be Suraf and win damage consistently, even after getting nerfed, whereas we only did competitive damage if we managed to line shit up, like some kind of cracked out rocket surgeon. Not saying it's unfair, but having to track like 9 different procs and build-ups that stack independently to do a lot less than classes that smash their face against a keyboard, you know, it doesn't feel great. And I love BM Hunter, I have an alt, I play it as well because, you know, enhancement is what it is this season. Moving on to a new talent. Stormwell. Wind Fury weapon damage is increased by 10% when Crash Lightning hits only 1 mob, it procs Wind Fury for some nice added single target damage and to make Crash more viable to spam on single target. And Crash Lightning is taking a step forward overall with the new enhancement Apex talents, allowing us to reset and stack Crash for multiple Crash buffs, and they also increase stuff like attack speed. Is wild! Then we have Descending Skies. Ascendance gives you 1 charge of Tempest, so like our current set bonus. A lot less impactful now because Tempest no longer spawns a feral spirit, but still feels good to play with, and it is a nice added burst damage bonus to your cooldown. You just go in swinging! Then a damage passive node, Natural Gift, 2% increased nature damage, whoop whoop. Then we get into the sad stuff. Like I said, they nerfed or reworked Rolling Thunder, so Doomwinds now spawns a nature feral spirit for 12 seconds. So no more Tempest Wolfies, just once every minute or every 2 minutes. But they've also reworked feral spirits overall to just be a passive proc. So you get a Nature Wolf when you press Doomwinds, 2 of them with Rolling Thunder, and a Fire Wolf when you press Sundering, which is worthless for Stormbringer. So no more feral spirit stacking at all. Rip Poochies, it was nice knowing you. But yeah, Blizzard overall seems to not want feral spirit stacking to be a thing. They also changed Arc Discharge, so after you cast Tempest, you get 20% damage increase on your next Chain Lightning, and it casts an additional time, down from 40%, and it no longer affects Lightning Bolt, so it's just an AoE funnel talent now. Other than that, the rest remains the same, but the changes to how we proc Tempest are pretty massive as far as how we play. It doesn't change the rotation or generators spender gameplay, but it does mean you no longer play around pooling Tempests, at least not to the same degree. Or, you know, tracking Maelstrom spent, Awakening Storm, Ascendant stacks. You just kinda blast now. However, combining these Stormbringer changes with the reworked enhancement tree, you land in a very fast-paced Stormstrike and Spender-centered build with a few incredibly overpowered Crash Lightnings thrown into the mix. And for example, with the changed Thorim's invocation, where it not only works off Doom Winds, but also Crash Lightning procs it. So anytime you Stormstrike or Crash Lightning, you spend up to 10 Maelstrom. So even during Ascendance or Doom Winds, you'll chain out massive Crash Lightnings that also cast Chain Lightning. And on top of that, you can proc Doom Winds when Ascendance is on cooldown, which is great as far as dopamine chase goes. Come on, proc for daddy! Or just spec into Doom Winds and Thorims, but skipping Ascendance or Deeply Rooted Elements, and you get a 1 minute cooldown Ascendance without Windstrike, but otherwise works the same. So you'll be able to swap between a 1 minute build or 2 minute build depending on encounters. I mean, imagine raid fights with ads where half the time you have Ascendance, half the time you don't. Well, now you can. However, I am a bit conflicted here. I've spent the past 2 seasons complaining about all the stuff Stormbringer needs to track and line up to do damage, but losing all of it also makes Stormbringer feel a bit bare bone. Feels kind of basic, like a butterless toast. However, I am also severely brain damaged from playing Stormbringer most of War Within, and each season introduced more shit we had to track, to the point where we no joke track like 9 things that we try to line up or prep to do acceptable damage. And now we have like 1 thing, maybe 2 to track. So this is the first time I'm able to do Stormbringer's rotation while being able to hear my own thoughts. I might actually be able to speak while doing the rotation in Midnight. However, on to Totemic. Surging Totem itself has been changed a bit. It now has a 1 minute cooldown, lasts for 25 seconds and functions like an actual goddamn DPS cooldown, rather than something you have to constantly maintain and drag around. Get over here. I mean, you can still move it around, of course, but yeah, 1 minute cooldown slaps a ton, enables other talents. And as far as new Totemic talent goes, the big one is Totemic Momentum. Each Maelstrom spent increases hot hand duration by 0.2 seconds, so up to 2 seconds per spender. This, combined with how Lava Lash cooldown reduction works in Midnight, means Totemic wants to cast spenders constantly. Elemental Tempo. Each stack of Maelstrom consumed reduces Stormstrike and Lava Lash cooldown by 0.3 seconds, so up to 3 seconds. So anytime you spend, say, 10 Maelstrom, you reduce Lava Lash cooldown by 3 seconds and extend Hot Hand by 2 seconds, which creates this amazing gameplay loop of trying to extend your Hot Hand as long as possible so you're able to cram out as many empowered Lava Lashes as possible. And then you combine this with Thunder Capacitor, which is the old Thorim's invocation, where you have a chance to refund Maelstrom spent. This synergizes like crazy with Lava Lash now. Anytime it refunds, you can pretty much weave Lava Lash and spenders. And it now also synergizes really well with Ascendance and the new Doom Winds and Thorim's combo, since both Windstrike and Crash will spend Maelstrom and Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt, so they will reduce Lava Lash cooldown and extend Hot Hand. I love this. It made Totemic so much fun to play, just that little gameplay loop. And when you manage to extend it for an additional global, you know your Hot Hand is about to expire and you get that spender, Hot Hand just pops up for an extra second and you manage to squeeze in one last Lava Lash. Now there's of course more than that. We also get Surge Catalyst. After casting Surging Totem, your next Lava Lash casts again at 150% effectiveness. Not much to say, just adds on to Surging Totem being a cooldown. Of course, you can combine this with things like damage amp windows. If you're holding your Surging Totem for a, say, damage amp window, you pop it and your next Lava Lash will just absolutely blast. But otherwise, just more dam. And of course, a passive damage node. Elemental Attunement, 2% mastery. Now they also changed Lively Totems, Voltaic, and Lava Lash procket since they removed Ice Strike and Frost Chuck stuff. Reactivity got buffed, 80% Sundering effectiveness up from 50, and Earth Surge 125% Tremor effectiveness up from 100%. And they changed Whirling Elements Earth mode. It now increases Sundering damage by 100% instead of Flame Shark stuff, making Sundering pretty damn meaty following a Surging Totem. Otherwise, Talents works the same, but due to the enhancement tree rework, you'll now comfortably be able to fit Ascendants into Totemic builds, which once again opens up for Totemic talents like Oversurge. And there's some flexibility between going full AoE and more single target oriented, granted very field crafted builds at the moment, but swapping for example Primordial Storm and say surging elements for Elemental Assault, and or the Apex Capstone that gives you 15% more attack speed per Crash Lightning buff, which if RNG be with you can stack up to like 5 or 6 times. And having like 75% more attack speed translates to a whole lot of Maelstrom generation, as well as more hot hand procs. But overall it seems to boil down to 1-2 talents between AoE and single target, if even that, as all builds seems to work for both Totemic and Stormbringer. There's pretty much 2 or 3 talents that you'd swap around, going for talents like Storm Flurry for Stormbringer and of course Hot Hand for Totemic, or I don't know, some weird hybrid Stormstrike Lava Lash Abomination. Ugh. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic overall for enhancement in Midnight. Well, as long as they don't tune us like Season 3 War Within and leave us to rot whilst showering Boomkins and BM Hunters with mid-patch buffsies. By the way, the spit is for Boomkins and Hunters. But Totemic right now in early alpha feels really good. Like it feels fleshed out and has, for me at least, a very addictive playstyle, trying to extend Hot Hand for as long as possible, and yeah, just overall very enjoyable flow behind it. And yeah, Stormbringer is just straight up fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about the new changes to our hero talents. Hyped for a simpler Stormbringer and a Totemic build with engaging rotation? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you want to know more about enhancement changes in Midnight, I have a video out with all current enhancement changes. Don't forget to subscribe and slap that notification bell for future updates. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. If you want to help support my work, do check out my Patreon or YouTube membership. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.